Good morning, everyone. Just as I'm getting things organised up here for me, I feel I probably should clarify, just in case anyone was confused. My name is Luke. If you hear people call me Dave, don't worry, it's not, you haven't been misled or mistaken into another person. Somehow I ended up with that nickname. To the point there are people here and who've been coming to Gorsley for a long time who only know me as Dave. So I just thought I should clarify that in case anyone asks you or tries to introduce me to someone at some point. But yeah, wasn't that amazing to hear from those guys? I have to admit that I was quite glad there was a song in between, because just as they were finishing up and talking so openly, so passionately about how much they enjoyed it and how their reasons for going and all of it, I really was starting to tear up there, Matt. So it was amazing, and please just keep sharing with people here, people at college, wherever. The passion you show when you talk about Smiles, but more importantly, the Lord, is such a blessing to see. So, I was asked to talk a bit about joy, one of the fruits of the Spirit. And actually, as I was asked that, I thought, yes, that's a very, very nice one for me to get to think about. Partly because it is joy, God's joy that he gives us, but also being at Gorsley and talking about Smiles, these are two places where I have experienced God's joy in more deep and profound ways than anywhere else in my life. So there will be a couple of short stories from here and Smiles. But something that, as I was writing ideas down and going through things, preparing this, was I couldn't get the image of a fruit tree out of my head. Obviously, fruits of the Spirit. And the idea that all of the fruits of the Spirit, whether it's joy or love or peace, forbearance, kindness, all of them, that these are not one-off things. These are not things that we receive once and then they're gone. These are not things that are with us every moment of every day. As in, we don't experience them all in one big go every day. Rather like a tree and the fruit on it, it grows because we have God within us. God's inside us, God's love and his salvation in us. And each of these fruits can grow in us, and we will experience them at varying times in our lives and throughout the course of our day-to-day routines. We will experience them and can take great strength from them, but they can also be such a fantastic witness to people around us who might see them in the way we act, what we say, just our whole manner in many ways. I can clearly remember the first time I felt the full, well, maybe not the full depth, but the deepest God's joy I have ever experienced. And it was here in Gorsley. Not in the building, it was in the youth tent at Flower Festival, which I'm sure lots of you know would have been in that field just out past the cafe now. And it was in one of the evening services, I can't quite remember which evening. We'd had the message, we'd had a great time together, lots of fun and games as well. But it was in the last song in that tent. It's a strange thing to say, but it was so deep and so profound and such a connection to God. I struggled, and I still struggle, to actually describe the feeling. Describing feelings, I think, is hard, if not impossible at times. And trying to even write it down as I was preparing, or to convey it to someone in a conversation, or to you now, I was really struggling on how to do justice to that feeling, because it came from God. It was more than we can experience in our human lives just from us. Thankfully, I was, reading through the Bible and making notes as well, because I came across a verse in 1 Peter 1 verse 8, which in a way made things easier for me. I'll read it now. You love him even though you have never seen him. Though you do not see him, you trust him, and you rejoice with a glorious, inexpressible joy. And as I read that, I thought, that's the phrase I couldn't come up with that I needed. In that moment, in that tent, it was longer than a moment, but it felt, I lost track of time, to be honest. It was so glorious. It was from the Lord. And inexpressible, yes. It was such a deep connection, which in that moment was both uplifting and fantastic to experience. But far more than that, years later, like now, but also any day, it just pops into my mind, or I'm thinking about Joy, or even the Flower Festival. That memory is so strong, and I can still take strength and almost experience that joy again throughout my life. And I could say the same for a lot of the other fruits of the spirits as well, because experiencing any of these things from God is so powerful, and we can draw such strength from it. We can use memories where we've experienced it, or we can ask God for it again, and he will provide it. So I have another story now from Romania, because thinking about the work there are many, many times where I rely on my memories of the joy and other fruits of the Spirit. But there are plenty of times where I just need to come to God and ask him. And thinking about it, I don't actually ask for joy that often. I don't consider that one. It's not that it's not important, but working in Romania is, as the guys have said, often challenging. You're out your comfort zone. So things like love or patience, kindness, often I need to ask God for these things in a moment. It might be on a project, working with a family. I may be tired from a long day and just need God's help in that moment. And I can always come to him. So I'll give you this story that happened quite recently. It was in April of this year. I can't quite remember exactly when. But we were at the start, really, of welcoming Ukrainians across the border into Romania. And Oradea, where Smiles is based, was a transition city. So lots of people were moving through, maybe staying 1-2 nights in the city, and then moving on to England or Germany or France, wherever they had friends and relatives to go and stay with. And often they would arrive in groups anywhere from 3 to 50, with whatever they could have picked up and left, or fit in the car if they had one of those with them. And they would arrive at all times. There were many 2 or 3 a.m. runs to the border, because there was a group there waiting for us. It was hard physical work and hard emotional work as well, because often you would hear stories from them about what they'd left very quickly to escape. And I did get to hear a lot of their lives and their stories, because actually for me, there wasn't so much of a language barrier, because lots of them, particularly the young people and the kids, learn English. So for once, a lot of the conversations were going through me rather than the Romanian translators who couldn't speak Ukrainian. That was tough, very tough. And there was one evening in particular where I didn't go to the border to get them. I was at the mission center where we were going to have them stay for one night. And I just got to the point where I was very tired, and I wasn't sure I could face another evening of that work. Not because there was anything wrong with the people that would come. They weren't rude. They were very grateful. Very grateful and very thankful and kind. But it was so draining that actually I took a moment to just pray to God. Patience was definitely one, because there's lots of questions coming at you from all angles. Kindness, love, things that I needed to show to these people. And we wanted, all of us, to know they were coming somewhere where they would be safe. And just for a short time, we would look after them. And God did provide. Absolutely, he did provide. It was another long night, and then in the morning, that group left on a coach for Germany. But now, after that morning, I need to remember to ask God to always show me, to please give me his joy in situations as well. Because as they were leaving, one of the fathers of one of the families, could speak very good English. We'd been talking a lot. And he just came and shook my hand and said, thank you. And he said, I can't believe how much you're doing for us and for all the people who are coming through this organization. We'd been talking about Smiles and why we do what we do, and the one thing he really couldn't get his head around was the fact that we were doing all this for free for them, out of love, and the coach was paid for them to get to Germany, and he could not get his head around this. And one phrase he said, just as he got on the coach and said, thank you again, he said, thank you, I have seen a new side to religion, Christianity, that I've never seen before. I've seen it in action. And once they'd left and I'd stopped crying after that, that was such a hard-hitting phrase. And such a surprise, really. Not that God could work through that situation and show something new to that guy, but because I'd gone into that evening so drained, so physically and emotionally, not numb, but just tired and almost running on autopilot. But as he left on that coach that morning, I had such a sense of joy in my heart. It wasn't a shouting, laughing excitement, but a deep connection, a deep, glorious joy that something new had happened in that man's life, that God had worked even when I was pretty weak that evening and that morning. He worked through that situation. And he can for all of us. And I urge you, I'm trying hard to do this more, to pray more in those moments. Whether it's a good moment where you're saying thank you to God and he maybe gives you joy then. Or if you know you're going into a tough situation and you need peace or love or one of the other ones. You can always say a prayer. You can always come to him and he'll provide. So I pray that and I hope that as you go into this week, that will be with you, and that God will give you joy in many situations. because that connection with him and that joy, it is glorious and it is inexpressible. And it deepens our relationship with him in a way that we all need. I know I need it every day. So I pray that you will experience that joy and always come to him and ask if you need any of those fruits of the Spirit. Thank you. I will just pray to finish. Dear Lord, I thank you for the fact that you are always with us and in us and providing so many different things to strengthen us, for us to grow, for us to help others, even when we may not know we are helping others. You can work through so many situations, in so many ways. And I pray that you will always be our first action, to pray to you, that in every situation you will lead and we will serve you for your glory, Lord. Amen.